Turn It On, the Level 42 fan podcast, is in no way affiliated with the band. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are solely the speaker's own.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Turn It On, the Level 42 fan podcast. We are here with our typical trio from here in the U.S., here to talk the time away with all things Level 42, the greatest group ever to walk planet Earth. Mr. Mikey Payne, welcome and hello.
Hello, the sweetest pain is only human after all.
Beautiful. Mr. Winston M. Walker, windman with many faces and many names, welcome and hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while. And I'm Bob Considine, also saying hello to all the Level 42 fans out there, both past, current, and future from all over the world. Of course, we very much appreciate you being here, and your likes, listens, and follows are always appreciated. Win, as you said, it's been a while. It's good to talk to you guys again. Before we forget anything, by the time this podcast drops, we should be coming up close on Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, whether you're a fan or the mother of a fan. You do good in the world.
Happy Mother's Day. Hi, Mom.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day to all the mommies out there.
Yeah. And also a big Mikey, we should be both thanking Mr. Windman with many faces and many names, because he has been putting out a ton of videos on social media, on Facebook, the different forums, and really nice work. Really great to see some stuff and upgraded to 4K. And Win, I just wanted to thank you for that. It's been awesome. A lot of work on your part.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't got any housework done because I've been watching all these videos.
Oh, yeah, so stick to the audio then. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's kind of cool to see stuff look a little better. And the cool thing is I pretty much been spamming a bunch of groups like North America, showing them the love, Ultimate Level 42 loyal fans of Mark King, and Level 42 for all things 42.
Yep.
And no one has been bitching about it. You know, like, stop it.
Not publicly, anyway.
Well, the funny thing is, there's so many people that are in these groups.
Yeah. And
they're like, oh, I've never seen this before.
Well, I'll be honest, I didn't see one of them either. There was one.
Same.
Mr. Pink. From what was that? It was like a dance.
The Tube. From the
Tube. Yeah.
And there's people dancing to Mr. Pink. Like, oh my God.
See, I got the same reaction. I'm like, well, you can dance to anything, but the cool thing is, it's like some people are really getting down. Other people are just standing there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun. It's like just like you go to a club. Some people just stand around. Some people dance. But it's kind of cool because when I saw that, I was like, oh, wow, I don't recall seeing this. And my first thought was this on one of the Bob C tapes?
Nope.
Okay. But then I quickly looked. I said, well, let me see if I can find a better version, because I'm scouring YouTube trying to find the best quality. I'm like, oh, the official Level 42 site has been putting out these videos, and that was one of them.
Oh, it was.
Right. And so if you search on YouTube, you'll see that video, but, you know, they've got the Level 42 logo, you know,
yeah,
on the bottom right-hand corner. So I'm like, wow, so that came out and I must have missed it, you know?
It's funny. There's so many videos out there, and then you're like, have I ever seen this? And then you realize, like, 60 seconds, and yeah, I have seen this. But that misses Mr. Pink. I've never seen that. And it was really weird to see people dancing to that.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's a movie that I'm not remembering, but there's like people at a jazz club dancing to jazz, and it's like, yeah, that doesn't really work. But this does, because, you know, hey, it's got a, what do they say? It's got a good beat and you can dance.
Well, it's got a lot of energy. It's like, yeah, you know, I would be, if I was at that show and I had to dance, I'd be pogo sticking up and down on that particular song. It's really good performance.
Yeah, definitely. And again, awesome work, man.
Yeah, more stuff coming, you know.
Good.
Cool.
Alive.
All right, and so speaking of live dates, we are now embarking on the festival season for Level 42. So I'm just going to read off a few of them that are coming up for anybody really around the world. They're going to be kind of all over the place. And I'm going to butcher a few names here, but I'll give it my best shot. June 22nd, the band will be at Let's Rock at Leeds in the UK. July 6th, Let's Rock in Southampton, UK. So those Let's Rock festivals are going to be at two different ones, and sandwiched in between that, they'll be at Park City Live in Heerlen, Netherlands on June 29th. July 11th, they'll be in Norway at Roots Fest. July 27th at Endendorf in Germany. And then you hit to August and more festival dates. You got the 80s Calling on August 3rd. It's in Colchester, which is about an hour outside of London. And then on August 31st, another 80s Calling date in Darlington, UK, which is 4 hours outside London. In the middle of that, Camp Festival, they've done it before in Weston Park, UK on August 15th. And then there might be some dates in Japan. I would pay attention to the official Level 42 site for that in September, but nothing official yet. And then we hit November, and it's all over the place. They'll be at Chile at the Sun Monticello in Mostazal on November 2nd. And guys, November 4th, we've talked about this before. They'll be at Cancun, Mexico for this 80s rocks thing at the Sands. And we've talked about this, I just noticed, but I have to tell you, listen to Sirius XM radio all the time as much as I do. Mm-hmm. Mark Goodman, he's a former MTV VJ, he's a DJ on Sirius now, and on different stations. He'll be on the classic rock station, he'll be on the 80s station. He's always talking about this upcoming show, and he's bringing up the fact that Level 42 is going to be in it, like on classic rock stations, and it's really cool to hear.
Awesome.
Yeah, of course, I don't think any of us are going, but that's going to be the closest U.S. date. But I just it doesn't seem to be my type of gig.
Yeah.
So anyway, people get there.
Water, Bob.
I don't want to be in that water.
I'm just saying, you don't have to get in.
I know.
You could be that guy like in scuba gear.
I get so skeeved out looking at even the. Listen, I'm not selling that show well, so I'm going to drop it. November 9th in Aalen, Germany. November 10th. But this is a stretch, guys. You got the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. The band is playing on successive days. Wow. November 9th in Aalen, Germany. November 10th in Zurich, Switzerland. The 11th on Arnhem in the Netherlands, Harum in the Netherlands on November 12th, November 13th at Baden-Baden, Germany, and then November 14th in Leverkusen, Germany. Again, if I apologize, I've mispronounced some of your cities.
It's going to be a voice killer. That many days in a row?
Yeah.
Full gigs, I wonder.
That's crazy. Yeah, I think they are full gigs, Win. And then they'll wind up the year November 29th and November 30th at the Indigo O2, the only two London dates for the calendar. And they was, blow the roof off the place there. Want to get to our appetizer subject today. This was a good one by Mikey, actually, so I'm going to toss it to him. And here's why it's a good idea, because, in the past on our social media channels over the years, somebody has said, have a poll, what songs do you want to hear on the next tour? And I remember, it might have been one year that the band was actually paying attention to that.
Yeah. So they actually asked, because that was the tour where they did, when they did that Reading gig that they filmed. That was
that's right.
Requested.
That's right.
Yeah.
So basically, the ask of us here is to choose 3 songs that we'd like to hear on the next major tour, which we all assume will be in 2025. And maybe, as Mikey said, us vocalizing that and maybe getting a discussion going with the people, who listen to this podcast, and maybe they'll take note and add one of these to the set. So, Mike, I'm going to hand it off to you. What 3 songs do you want to hear?
And so we don't know each other's songs, so it'll be interesting to see if I steal any of your guys'. So
Yep.
I'm gonna start with my third choice.
Okay.
And that's got to be Out of Sight, Out of Mind.
Interesting. They haven't played that in a long time.
Yeah. No, I believe they played it during an acoustic set a few years ago, 10 years ago, maybe.
Wow, I don't remember that.
I think they redid it acoustically.
You're right. You're right. There's video that someone shot of a portion of that with because I remember Pete playing percussion.
Yeah, and didn't Mike have an accordion or something?
Oh, I don't. There is footage of him, but I don't know if that was when they did it with the accordion.
Well, no, when they did the accordion, they did.
It was the guaranteed stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
They also did. Why am I drawing? It's one of my favorite songs. All I Need.
Yeah, awesome song. Yeah. My second choice, one they've never played live before. It's from the Staring at the Sun album, and it's Two Hearts Collide.
Yeah, interesting.
I'd love to hear the U.S. remix of that live. I think that would be really cool.
Well, the bass in that, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I think it would translate really well live too, but what do I know? And then my number one choice, it's got to be done. It's never been done. They have the horn section to do it at the end, and it's As Years Go By.
That was one of mine, Mikey.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, that's all right. That's good. It's consensus.
Yeah.
It's what we call consensus, everybody.
Yeah. I think at this time and space, 43, 44 years, that track is just, again, we've talked about it before, but as a single, but that's, I think, one of the strongest, for me, it'd be top 10 level 42 song for me. And I'd love to hear it live, especially the guys going crazy with the horns at the end. But those are my choices. Bob, what about you?
Those are great choices. As years go by, I didn't really put mine in order, but that was, of my 3, the only one that they haven't played live that I put on my list. It is a very strong song. And particularly kind of the coda with the horns, as you were mentioning, is really, really great stuff. So yeah, let's get that movement going. As years go by, we'll see if Winston, wink, wink, has it on his list. Wink, wink, win. All right. So I know in 2018 they finally started playing "Good Man in a Storm." It's still, we waited so long for that. I would still take it again.
Definitely.
Did we really wait for that one?
We did wait for that one.
Okay.
For an eternity.
Oh, goodness. Yes. I'm joking. I do like that live.
Yeah, I love the way they did it with, Mark was kind of using a bass synth effect to start off that song, which I really enjoyed. And I just think it's just one of the greatest songs I've ever heard anywhere. So,
Here.
And my last one, they have played this live, and I just enjoy it every time. And it's such a deep track. And I can imagine, kind of the surface hits-based fan probably tune out for this. But I love when they play the song "Man" live.
Oh, yeah. That was on my list almost, too. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So those would be my 3. What do you got, Wim?
Good stuff. So, looks like I'm going to be the guy with all instrumental songs.
Cool.
So, and I think these are all songs that have never been played live. Or at least I've never heard them. I mean, maybe they did. When I name these, maybe someone will pop up, because you know how you post a picture of a gig or something, and there's always people like, I was there, so maybe that'll happen, and we'll get a little bit of info. But so obviously Return of the Handsome Rugged Man, my favorite song of all time.
Yay.
I want to hear that live. That would just, if they played that live, it would blow my mind, and I'd be really sad because I probably won't be able to be there to hear it. But that would be awesome. And then someone on one of the groups mentioned, or they asked, hey, have they ever done Autumn, Paradise is Free? And I thought, nope, I don't think they've ever performed that live, but I would really like to hear that because that's a pretty awesome Latin.
I think they. I would love to go back to some of those old. We get Julian back. We might be able to confirm that, but
yeah, that's true because, but I don't know of any. There's hundreds of concerts out, bootlegs that people recorded, and I've never come across that song.
Okay, so maybe you're right then.
But I would be happy to be wrong, and I bet you Julian or Simon, they would know. And of course, Simon would probably know what venue, what the date was, and how long they performed it exactly.
Right.
And because I always it made me think of that song. Oh, that's always been that's like a great Latin jazz feel. And then the other one I thought of today was Shapeshifter.
I was going to bring that up later.
I always liked that song, and I did listen to it today. And because obviously I knew, what our main topic was going to be. And I'm like, oh, that's such a good song and so many cool parts. So I was like, wow, I would love to hear all those. Now, obviously, they ain't going to do 3 instrumental songs in a set. But hey, if I'm going to dream,
All right.
Dream crazy.
Crazy.
Dream crazy.
Both came to the same conclusion. So that's my 3. No particular order. Shapeshifter, Return of the Handsome Rugged Man, and Autumn.
Well, we're going to talk about 2 of those songs on our next subject, our main subject today, which is Who Knew? It's the 42nd anniversary of the Pursuit of Accidents.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we're going to discuss this album today, and mostly because this is Winston's favorite album. But before we get into, why Winston loves this so much, I just wanted to read a few numbers off of it. First of all, it was the 3rd studio album. It was released in September of 1982, which is really kind of a weird year for the band because in March of 82, they had the early tapes come out, which was their 2nd album, but actually the first one recorded. Then July of 82, Freedom Go-Go comes out with the Mark King, Mike Lindup project. What was it? Thunder Thumbs and
the Tootsman.
Yeah. I can't pronounce that word. And then again, September 82, the band comes out with this Pursuit of Accidents, and it wound up reaching number 17 on the UK charts, which was actually 3 places higher than the Level 42 debut album. You had 3 singles off of it. Are You Hearing What I Hear, which reached 49. Weave Your Spell topped out at 43. And then The Chinese Way made it up to number 24 in early 83. So this is an album very much worth discussing. I'm going to hand it off to Win because I really am curious to see why this album means so much to you.
Well, if I'm being honest, a big part of it is it's the first album I heard. And I realized that has a big impact on me. Like, if I had heard World Machine first, I'm sure that would be my favorite album.
Yep.
So, because I'm not saying The Pursuit of Accidents has the best songs that they've ever done. It, my favorite song by the band is not on this album. It's a B-side of a single from this album.
Right.
But for me, Star Child was my entry. And then I heard a second song by the band, and that made me want to go out and find an album. And where I was living at the time, the only album I could find, and it was a cassette, was The Pursuit of Accidents.
That's amazing.
And then that was right at a good turning point because I was really starting to get into jazz. and this kind of has the jazz funk fusion Brit funk thing going on, so it was like perfect for me at the time. And for me, this is their second album. For me, I knew there was an album, and I knew when I got this that, okay, well, this doesn't have Star Child on it, so that was on an earlier album, but I couldn't find that album at the time. I got this one, and then I didn't find out about the early tapes until after this. So, so even like when I look and they go, like, I look online, it's like, oh, this was their third album. I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was their second album. Technically was their third album. So it's just that weird thing that you already described. You know, there's so much going on. But that's what it is. It's like this was the first thing, the first album, and that really got me into like, oh my God, I like all these songs.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be my new thing. Like I got to find what else have they done. And so that kind of made me like when World Machine came out, like, where's the instrumental songs? What's going on here? Like, but there were albums before this that didn't have instrumental songs.
That's true.
So
were there?
Well,
yeah,
it was
Standing in the Light.
Yeah, so it was like I didn't seem to have a problem with that, and that's probably maybe a teeny bit less poppy than World Machine. Yeah. I mean, it's got like Dance on Heavy Weather, something that's not really as smooth as the World Machine album. But in my mind, it was like World Machine was like, what are they doing? What's going on here? Like, I wasn't expecting that. But when you compare Standing on the Light to World Machine, it's not that very different.
Right.
But this one, I fell in love with this album right away, especially Pursuit of Accidents, the title track.
Yeah.
That just did it.
Well, for me, I mean, that is my favorite part of that album, the Pursuit of Accidents. Before I get, I've been yapping all day. Mike, what do you make of this album?
Well, for me, it's probably the album that I have listened to the least.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say I don't like it.
Right.
Love some tracks on it. But I read somewhere, it might have been the liner notes of the box set, or it might have been something else, but I think Mike Lindup said something about this was their most eclectic album.
Yeah, I mean, it's disjointed. That's the way I always think of it.
Yeah, and that's kind of not saying the songs aren't great, because they are, but it doesn't. The flow doesn't. It just sounds like a collection of songs instead of an album. I don't know. Yeah. But still, the first time I heard "Are You Hearing What I Hear," I was sold. Yeah. I was sold. Yeah, absolutely. And it's also a transition album from their early stuff to when they went to start working on the Standing in the Light album with Earth, Wind, and Fire. So
well, I always feel like this song, if there's a lack of cohesion, it's probably because they are starting to do a little bit more songs. Mm-hmm. You think about a song like Last Chance. That's the chorus of that is a great melody line. Mm-hmm. And probably I'm going to guess Mark wrote the melody line on that, but I could be wrong. But so you got some really like the Pursuit of Accidents, the title track, is such a strong instrumental, and then you got, all right, well, let's try some songs here now. We got Weave Your Spell, Last Chance, Are You Hearing, and You Can't Blame Lewis, straight in a 4 in a row. And then really a big kind of medium-sized hit in the Chinese Way. So for me, though, one of the highlights, this, you listen to Level 42 and there's certain moments you go, oh my God, that blows me away every time I hear it. In the song The Pursuit of Accidents, there's a moment, everybody get your tracks out. 3 minutes, 2 seconds in.
Yeah, I don't do that.
All right.
I don't know the time that thing happened, so I
had to look it up.
I respect you so much right now that you did that.
Well, this moment is just a killer, and I really wish we could replay it right here on the podcast. But 3 minutes, 2 seconds in, it's about a 2 or 3 second just moment of blur where Mark Mark is just slamming on the bass 16th notes, and Phil is playing the Ride single exactly the same time he hits it. And it blows my mind. I always wanted to ask those guys, was that done purposely, or was it just, inspiration happening at the same time? It blows my mind every time I hear it. And it's literally 2 seconds long.
Yeah, for me, that song, it keeps, right from the beginning, it keeps changing gears.
Mm-hmm.
So you're starting like, there's a kick drum.
Yeah.
Mark plays like some little lick, whatever bass players call that, and, you get some, little bass line, some keyboard chords, and then you get this rise of synth strings, melody.
Yep.
Then chorus. Then when they go back to that first melody, that's where Phil comes in with the ride. Mm-hmm. But each of those parts, it's like taking the song to a different, I'm not going to say that word. It just keeps going. It's like part after part after part after part. Yeah. And it just keeps getting better and better.
Yep.
And I freaking love it. And I'm sure that's how I felt. Like, it makes me feel like when I listen to the song, like it's like the first time that I'm listening to it, where you're like, okay, where's this going to go? Ooh, okay. Yeah. I like where they did that, what they just did there. And then, like you pointed out, when that ride symbol comes in, that's just like the icing on the cake. Like, okay, now we're cooking. And then it still has more parts to go.
And there's like such controlled energy. Like, they're playing control, but there's just something behind it, man. It is like, oh my God.
Yeah, and hearing it live was really cool too.
Yeah, and I want to say that I might have heard Phil say like he's not a big fan of that album.
Yeah.
Which always brings into the thing where fans, how they feel about music, and then how the people who created the music feel about it. Like, they may not like these, a couple of these songs very much, but they got to make an album, I guess.
Yeah. There's
always going to be favorites, but we could think like, oh, this is the best thing you've ever done. And they're like, yeah, okay. It's, I don't feel it's my best work. So there's always that but you don't argue with an artist about that like you would argue with your friends about it. Like, you're crazy, man. That's the best song on the album.
Yeah.
So it's always, and I believe there's stories out there that they went into the studio to do this album with someone and things didn't work out, and then they brought in Mike Vernon to finish.
That's exactly right. So what it was I think they really wanted to produce themselves, but they brought this guy, Nick Launay, to help come in,
Right.
And so Nick, you can give him credit for two things. He worked on It's a Happening, and then Pursuit of Accidents, he recorded. So if you think about the sound quality of the kick drum, the bass on that, so that was like a 15, 17-minute jam or something like that he basically cut down to what it is. And I think he probably did a really good job. I mean, because it's very fulfilling, however long that song is. I'm going to guess it's 6 or 7 minutes, but
I think it's almost 8 minutes.
Right. And then I think whatever they had recorded, they had taken to management and they weren't wild about it. And they brought, as you said, they brought Mike Vernon back in.
Good stuff, though.
And the other cool thing is, it sonically, as I was saying, I love that song, but the whole album is really good sonically, in my opinion. Yet it was recorded in 5 different studios. That's even harder to imagine.
Oh, yeah. So one thing I noticed last time I listened to the album, and I guess this would be somewhat on the heels of the episode we did with about Mark King's underrated bass lines, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
I was taken by how good his bass sounds
on
these songs. And a lot of the songs, they're not like, the bass tone is not wildly different.
Mm-hmm.
But oh my God, it's like super tight. And I don't even know, hey, I'm not a bass player.
Yeah, it's not
sounds really good.
Yeah, not so much thunder thumbs, but yeah, when you're right, it's very intricate, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean the sound, not what he's playing.
Oh, right.
Like the sound of the bass. So I was going to say, I don't know if I would use the word intricate because can sound be intricate? But the point I'm making is I'm not talking about what he's playing. The sound of the bass. It's really tight. Because sometimes you listen to an album by bass player, and it's like, every song, it kind of has a different sound. Like, because maybe they're playing different basses for one thing, different effects. This kind of sounds like, bass players on the forums or whoever listens to it, they'll be able to tell us. But as far as I know, maybe he's playing the same bass on every song. But it sounds really good.
It really does.
A really tight sound. So, that's what I was taken away with when I think about what, not so much what he's playing, but the way the bass sounds. It sounds really good. Like, there's probably not we're talking about 82 or whatever.
Yep.
It's not like they had, I'm sure he didn't have some massive rack of effects that he was running bass through. But yeah, I love that song. And then another killer for me was I was really getting into the band.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't heard anything live by them at this point. It's not like I saw them on Top of the Pops or anything playing or any show. So when I was able to get the Weave Your Spell single, I'm like, ooh, it's got live songs, in addition to that, the extended version or whatever. It had a couple of live tracks, Love Games and Dune Tune.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is heaven.
Yeah.
Because, I didn't know anyone who was into the band that much that had access to live recording. So to hear them do this stuff live was just killer,
Yeah, I pulled Mikey when I pulled a review from Melody Maker, which really, Mikey, you would know more than me. I don't think they were very friendly to the band in the past.
No one was.
But I'm going to read you this review. It's actually positive. It says level 42. I don't know if they're being positive or a little bit cheeky, but they're like, level 42 are now writing pop songs! ! This is Paolo Hewitt. With melodies, structures, middle eighths, and all that jazz. Level 42 seem to be getting nearer by the minute to a perfect blend. And with the whispers in the air insinuating that Earth, Wind, & Fire might well be getting involved at a later stage with the group, then Level 42's masterly musicianship, coupled with a simplistic pop approach, could well turn into a pursuit of excellence rather than accidents.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So right there, they were the darlings of the British press for about 30 seconds.
Yeah, frame it.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I guess that makes sense because I don't know. I mean, there were songs on the first album, but
that's true.
It's I don't know.
I think that's what I meant to Wynn's comment earlier. When I know you're now talking about sonically how Mark's bass sounded, but I think for me, I heard a lot more intricate bass work on The Pursuit of Accidents than maybe I had on the others, the other earlier albums.
Well, also, I guess the other thing is like what Bob pointed out was, okay, you've got the first album, right? And there's instrumental stuff. And then you've got not this album, you've got the early tapes.
Right.
So they're hearing that, and that's mostly instrumental. And then you come with this, and it's like, okay, well, now you've got songs like You Can't Blame Lewis and Chinese Way and Last Chance. These are like, maybe they're like, yeah, these are proper songs. Like, oh, it's kind of different,
I gotta say, You Can't Blame Lewis, I was going to bring up because the intro groove for that song is just awesome. I really, and the way when the drums kick in and followed by the keyboards, it's just such a smooth groove, for lack of a better word. But I love that tune. I can't remember what the song means. I think the stories have gone around who Lewis is or what Lewis is, but I can't remember what it is.
You just can't blame him. That's all we know.
I don't know either, but it's a good song, and I like the extended version.
Yep,
because they've got that little extra horn stuff at the end. The synth brass, and the really nice keyboard sounds.
You look at it, you hear that, and the extended version of Last Chance also really good, really strong.
Okay, so I love that song.
Yeah.
The extended version is so much better.
Yep.
Because maybe, at some point they go to that percussion breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Lindup scatting.
Yep.
And then I'm thinking like, okay, because, studio stuff. Was the extended version the original version? They just edited it to make it fit on the album. Or did they do a... because I was always a big fan of Chic, when all the remixing craze was happening, with disco and with them, they never remixed anything.
Mm-hmm.
They literally just went in the studio and performed a longer version.
Right.
But obviously remixing, they just do a whole bunch of stuff. But I would like to know, and that might have been a great question to ask Mike. Hey, was this extended version the original version, and it just got edited down to make it fit on the album?
How cool would it be to get the original 15 minutes of The Pursuit of Accidents, that jam that was basically carved into a song?
Maybe it would be cool.
That would be a find.
Oh.
Yeah, we were talking about You Can't Blame Lewis. That was one of the tracks that Mark played live in 2001, 2002, part of the Apollo, was the Reading gigs. That's right. Yeah, so that got a live airing, but Last Chance has been played live. A lot of people might not know that because it appeared on a bootleg CD called The White Funky. So there is a live version of Last Chance out there.
And I think when you said to me once that that's basically the only recorded version of it, or maybe it's the only time they ever played it live. Is that possible?
It might have been at that time. That was the only that's the only point that we heard it. But whenever you say The White Funky, what comes to my mind is the criminally edited version of a certain instrumental song.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Let's take an 11-minute song and turn it into 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Because of CD limitations or something. It's like I remember getting that. I bought that bootleg like in Greenwich Village at this little record shop. I'm like, oh wow, look at this.
That's where I got it.
And I see this song on. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be awesome to hear this live. And it's like, no, it really wasn't. Because they just chopped it up.
Yeah, I distinctly remember getting that at a, something in the village. I forget which store it was.
Mm-hmm.
And being like, whoa, what is this? This is cool. And Last Chance on that, the White Funky album I think it's my favorite song on the entire album, just because of the extended instrumental break with Mike playing keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And the ride work that Phil's doing in that part.
That's good stuff, yeah.
I think this is the only Level 42 album where Phil and Mark are co-writers on every song, except for one.
Wow.
Yeah, never mind. I take it back. Shapeshifter
Shapeshifter is just Mark.
Yeah.
So I was going to bring up Shapeshifter before you brought it up.
Oh, cool.
Well, I was just going in the order, but mix it up.
So my thing with Shapeshifter, I love that song. But
great.
I never listened to it. I don't know why.
It's not one that you just pick out to listen on its own.
Exactly. And I'm wondering if that is possible. Like when you go on a streaming service, they'll show what songs are listened to the most or most popular, based on how many they're downloaded. I'm gonna guess that Shapeshifter might be the least listened to or downloaded Level 42 song ever. How about that?
I don't know. I'd be interested to see if I had any data of my own listening, but I love that song. Great
Yeah, I'm like
melody,
you, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
kind of laid back, funky, and the synth parts to me are like the only word I could think of is they're so crispy, like very staccato.
Yep.
I wanted to know, like at the time, like what synth, what keyboard is making that sound? You know, those sounds. You know.
I love the bass sound, like, you know, kind of that muted bass popping he's doing in the middle of the song. I really enjoy that.
You know, listening to it, you know, we were just talking about songs ending, you know, longer versions, edit versions. If you listen to the very end of Shapeshifter, it sounds like they just faded out the song and it just keeps going in another, you know, it kind of has a very quick fade out at the very end.
I gotta listen back to that.
Well,
you know, we haven't
that
talked
could
about
be something that definitely happens on a lot of albums back then, where it's like, okay, we're running out of space.
Yeah,
do the fade.
Well, it's funny. I don't think this album came out on CD until like '85.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. It was, and they put a couple of remixes like Chinese Way and You Can't Blame Lewis, the extended version, because I remember buying the CD.
That's right.
But was that? I mean, I don't even remember. Like, when did CDs become a thing? Was that around the time they just started releasing?
I think they came out a little bit earlier than that, but I just don't think they made them for this album until '85.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, the three words we haven't really talked much about this is The Chinese Way, and that was the biggest hit off this album, and you know, a concert mainstay till this day. And
Lolita's
honestly,
favorite song. Hi, Lolita.
It's my least favorite song. I think. Did you say it was Lolita's least favorite? Is that what you said?
It's not her favorite. Let's just.
Yeah, it's not mine either.
I always give her. I always liked it. It's bass sound. What he's playing.
It's impossible.
I am not. I don't. I like it. I don't know why it's so popular, like live. I don't know what it is. Like, do people really love this song, or is it they love to hear it performed? You know what I'm saying? Like, this wouldn't, like, if you handed me this album without me hearing it, and you're like, pick 3 singles,
right?
I wouldn't pick that song.
I wouldn't either.
I would have picked Lewis before that song.
Yep.
But I love hearing that song live, right. and I do like hearing it. Like, it's just, but I can't put my finger on it. Like, well, why is it popular? Like, you know, is it because people like the song, or it's because they heard the song live and it's like, oh, this kills live, and like, yeah, I wanna, you know, I want to hear it again. I don't know.
I think my favorite live version is the one from Live at Wembley, '85. I do think that is a great live version of this song. But just as a song, I'm usually fast forwarding on that. And no offense to anybody out there who loves that song.
So, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just going to say, I really enjoy the New York dub mix of that tune.
I haven't heard
exactly what I was going to say. Exactly what I was going to say. It. John Luongo, and it's weird because, it's like the extended John Luongo remix, and then they also called that the New York remix and the New York.
So they're the same
mix.
ones.
The John Luongo remix or the extended version is the New York remix. Same thing.
Okay.
And the dub is killer. I love that. You know, it's basically an instrumental version of it.
Right.
I love that. And that's probably why took the song. He gave it a bigger shelf life for me. Like, because I remember making, and this is gonna sound cheesy as hell, but I'm also into martial arts films. And back then, when I got this album, I had made like a VHS tape of like, you know, great fight scenes from martial arts movie, and I used that New York dub mix underneath it. And there was like 2 people in my life that got that when I showed them that video, because they also like kung fu movies, and they also knew, although there's no words, they knew that this was the song was the Chinese Way. So,
wow,
Yeah,
it's just
it's kind of like, for me, I put Chinese Way and Running in the Family kind of in the same boat. Like when a live version comes on, like, this is nice, don't get me wrong, but I could probably pick a bunch of other songs I'd rather hear at this point.
good point. Like, yeah, I'm at the point where it's like I don't need to hear Running in the Family again live.
Right.
But, and also it's not like I'm gonna go home disappointed if they don't play the Chinese Way live.
of course, yeah.
But I would rather hear the Chinese Way live than Running in the Family.
Yeah, it's they haven't they play the Chinese Way a lot. One of the songs we haven't heard live off this album for ages, I think, is Eyes Water Falling.
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've heard that.
So
live.
just something that I picked out of the book before we get off the Chinese Way was in Paul's book, the visual discography book, Paul Waller's book. He's got a little blurb in there that says, according to Mike Lindup, the working title for that song was the Chinese Space Disco.
Oh, cool.
Well, that seems
like, I mean, and I get that. I'm sure it wasn't like that was a lyric, but maybe because of the sounds and stuff, that's what they were thinking of it as. But I was just like, that's crazy. Chinese Space Disco.
Well, Shapeshifter's kind of spacey, right? And then you get to the end of Last Chance with the keyboards. Those are spacey too. I mean, I think there's kind of a theme running through that. Weren't they big science fiction guys?
Yeah, definitely. Well, you've got Eyes Water Falling. What was the book that gave inspiration to that?
It was actually a short story by Herman Hesse, I believe.
Herman Hesse. I tried to read that.
Right. It was called The Prodigy, maybe? Is that it?
And I didn't
I think so.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I remember like reading about that and like, oh, I'm going to check that out. And like,
right.
Yeah, the song's better. It didn't move me. But
right.
Okay, so that was a song that I took notice of, Eyes Water Falling, because that chugging bass line, and my first thought was, how does he play this and sing that?
Exactly.
Like, how does that happen? I mean, musicians are great at doing that stuff, but for me, that's just like, okay, like I can't even tap my chest with that bass line and try to sing that song. Like,
no, that's totally true. If you listen to the A Physical Presence live album, his version on that is just, you got to be kidding me.
It's surprised he has thumbs left after that.
But his voice is just, who knows what kind of editing but they did on that. But like, anytime you've even heard a bootleg, his voice is so solid while he's moving his hands, 2 hands at a million miles an hour, I don't know how he does it. And chews gum.
I guess that's an odd thing to do when you're singing, but I don't know, because I don't ever sing. But
I'm trying to think, guys, if we missed any B-sides.
Yeah, we did. Of course we missed, because we didn't talk about Are You Hearing?
Right.
Which has an amazing B-side. What could it possibly be?
The Return of the Handsome
Rugged Winston Walker.
That's right. The title's named after Win.
I wish. So, yeah, that was, my favorite song. We've all heard it.
No, but you can go into it again. I mean,
Mike Lindup,
what is it about, Win?
Mike Lindup did tease you, Win, about maybe playing live that tune.
He wasn't teasing. He was saying they're going to do it. That was a promise amongst friends.
Right.
No, I don't know. But that would be amazing if they just like goofing around on stage between songs, like there's some technical issue and they're like they just start playing that for a few seconds. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
But I don't even remember, like, for my favorite song, you'd think I remember the first time that I heard that. But, I got that album, and it probably wasn't, it could have been a month or two later that maybe I went to New York, went home, and then, looked at a record shop and found that single. Because at that point, I'm just buying anything I could find by the band. And then, like, ooh, this got a song on the flip side I never heard of. And like, oh, this is ridiculously cool. So yeah, that it's like my favorite song is not even on my favorite album technically.
Right.
Just the B-side of one of the singles.
And I think It's a Happening was a B-side for something. I don't even remember which one it was.
Was it supposed to be a B-side?
Maybe that was it. Maybe it was recorded.
It wasn't. It's not on vinyl. It was never released until that CD came out.
Right. And, that's kind of just a filler thing. That's how I don't take.
Yeah, that kind of sounds like jamming in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it does have that thing that they used to do, it's like, oh, we got this song, then we got a bunch of people in the studio like kind of talking and clapping along, kind of, that ambiance of like, let's make this sound like it's a real party or a happening, I guess.
That's right.
But
and then one of the other great things that came out of this album, The Pursuit of Accidents, was the video for Weave Your Spell, which I know is Winston's favorite.
Well, I didn't find that until one of your tapes, and it was like, but that, hey, that was the early days of videos. Anything goes,
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, it had a story. You got to have a story, and people sitting around wearing hats. So,
Panama Jack commercial.
it's kind of cool though, but I mean, I would love if they put out, like we talked about in our previous episode with Paul and Simon, like, man, if we could get a definitive compilation of all the music videos and stuff, like I'd be happy to see, because it's kind of sad because it's like, okay, it's a cheesy video, but we only have it in a horrible quality, so it'd be like,
right,
I need that D grade film in 4K, so it's like, why not? But yeah, that was funny because we had, Are You Hearing? And what was the other video?
Yeah, Are You Hearing What I Hear? And Weave Your Spell.
Weave Your Spell.
Yeah.
And Weave Your Spell was kind of cool because it had the princess lady kind of at the end,
Yep.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. And speaking of which, so you've got, I was always enamored a bit with the artwork on this album, with the, the rainbow and the curve and stuff. And then it's obviously the same woman, Joy Barling Loyola, who did the princess art from the first album. She did that cool Star Child single artwork with the kind of like the Da Vinci Vitruvian Man kind of thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I always liked that, and obviously, I never, when I fell in love with Star Child, that was not the artwork on the US 12.
That good, and there was a horrible photograph on the back with us sort of smoking. He goes, they didn't use smoke though; it was a type of incense and tons of it. And again, the idea of light shining out of the drain. So he wasn't a fan.
Well, maybe someone had this idea and they explained it to someone in some boardroom somewhere. I'd like to know what that was all about.
Yeah.
But,
it makes you wonder what they thought too when they were told the video storyline of Weave Your Spell. It's like, you want us to do what? You
didn't Mike do like a cartwheel or something like that in the video?
Fell out of his chair or something. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I think it was like a flash of light and he kind of falls backwards or something. But
yeah, I was going to say I was going to say too, my friend Liz, we're talking about songs we'd like to hear live. My friend Liz would really love to hear Weave Your Spell live again.
Mm-hmm.
But also live, I wanted to mention too about Are You Hearing What I Hear? And I think we talked about in the last podcast, the Hexagon Reading 85 show, where they're playing Are You Hearing What I Hear live? And Mark just totally butchers, the lyrics, and they're playing it live and they keep coming into it. And boy, that version, if you get to hear it online, I think it's on YouTube. It's a great fun version of Are You Hearing What I Hear? Because you get to hear them jamming a bit too, which you don't normally get to hear in that tune.
Yeah, like I remember while he's messing up, Boone's really playing some really cool like rhythm guitar and that.
Yeah, because they kind of stop. He stops singing. The band kind of keeps going, and then eventually Phil stops playing. But yeah, there's some good stuff that you can hear where eventually band members just start dropping out. Like, we got to start this again. And that, I don't know, that's just lovely to me, because it's like, hey, this is not in the studio.
Right.
There's people here listening to this. We got to start this over again. And they start it over again and mess it up again. And then you get the crowd cheering when he gets the lyrics right.
Wait, you actually played that for me. I didn't have that for forever. You were the one that introduced me to that. That's a long time ago.
That was just so cool. And it was always fun to like let someone hear that, or send it to someone. Like, I've got this thing. You're going to want to hear this, but not tell them. And when they get to that part, eventually you hear back like, what was that? Like, it's just, you don't want to make fun of people but that's live. Stuff happens. And just, okay, we screwed this up.
Mm-hmm.
We're recording. We got to do it again. And then it gets screwed up again. But the payoff is when they get it right and the whole place just erupts. Right. It's like, great,
Mark's like, that was what a wrong effing word.
Yeah. And Mike Linda plays this little baseball synth behind it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then eventually he's like, what are the words? And then Mike's like, life is a game.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, I guess it is.
Best thing ever. Oh, so the other thing, too, is, was it the Chinese Way that had the live version of 88 on the flip side?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
So again, another great. I like Chinese Way, but there's like, another song I've never heard live at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was always, and then there's like this mystery, like for me, because at that point I'd never been to England, and it's like you're reading the notes and it's like, oh, recorded at Guildford Civic Hall, sounds so cool, you know what I mean? And you're hearing about, whatever the other places. Because, you grow up in a town like Bob and I would know Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
What's the big theater in New York, in Manhattan, the one that everyone plays?
Radio City?
No, Radio City, but the one further uptown. It's a proper theater. In any event, but I would read like, Weave Your Spell. It's like, oh, they recorded, Guildford Civic Hall and Tunbridge Wells Assembly Hall, or those kind of places. It was like it had this mystery to me. Like, what is that? Like, what is that place?
Right.
Maybe it is the Beacon that I'm thinking of, because the Beacon's like right around 60th on Broadway. Like, in any event, I'm getting a little inside baseball with Manhattan venues.
Right.
But yeah, so that was always cool to me. Like, oh, a live song, and then they recorded it on this date at this place that I've never heard of. Because
we're talking about like, while we're talking about the white funky and songs basically off The Pursuit of Accidents, and you guys just reminded me of, as Mark had struggled with Are You Hearing What I Hear? On the White Funky, he does an intro basically for Eyes Were Falling, and then he goes, last chance.
Because Phil is playing a different song. So he's, Oh, so the White Funky faux pas was obviously a great song, a great long song called Foundation and Empire.
Mm-hmm.
That somehow becomes 2.5 minutes maybe on this CD.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I swear to you, I remember where I was when I had that CD in like my little Sony Walkman. I'm listening to it the first time. I'm coming out of Subway at 42nd Street, right across from the bus station. And I'm like, oh yeah, Foundation. And then it like ends. And I'm like, what? Well, I'm looking at the CD player. Like, surely this song can't be this, this stupid Sony Discman skipped on me. Surely that's not the end of the song. And yeah, I look at the notes and I'm like, 2 minutes and 23 seconds or whatever it was. Like, that's a crime. That's a crime.
That was a crime.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll give you guys one more trivia question about the Pursuit of Accidents. And we were talking about the video for Are You Hearing? What is Boone playing?
Oh, I think we all know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, banjo.
Banjo. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Really cool. Love that version of it, too. Yeah. That's in the extended version, isn't it?
Yeah. But here's the thing. I probably thought that was a keyboard at the time.
So I still think it's a keyboard. I just think they threw a banjo.
Like faking it. Like
yeah.
That is funny. Yeah. So I was thinking that the guy who remixed The Chinese Way, John Luongo, like I remember his name because I was like DJing and stuff.
Right.
But I looked up. I was like, well, what else has he done? And this is obvious. This was probably before, things got kind of remix crazy. We had like Shep Pettibone, and John Jellybean Benitez, like doing, like everyone wanted a remix, right? Yeah. For the clubs, like Hall & Oates and all these bands. But I looked at some of the people that he worked with, and it's like around that time he had remixed Stanley Clarke.
No kidding.
The Jacksons,
right?
And Dan Hartman, and then Eye Level, who was another Brit band who I loved their album, but then also Cheap Trick.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I'm like, I don't remember them, but at that time it was like we were getting into the middle 80s. Like everyone wanted like a dance remix for the clubs.
Everybody had a dance remix.
Yep, for songs that was like really, there's but hey. People were going to clubs and stuff, and go ahead, Mikey.
At least these remixes stayed true to the essence of the songs. Thank goodness.
Yeah, a lot of them really didn't, though.
No,
like, I mean, because it's if you listen to a lot of it, it was I mean, I understand what you're saying, like. If you look at some of the listen to some of the Forever Now remixes where they just it just kind of went off the rails, in my opinion. Like, where is the song in there?
Yeah,
but a lot of it was like, okay, well, we're just going to take the basics of the song and just put a drum machine underneath it, and bunch of horn stabs, orchestra hits, and it was just like, some stuff lends itself to that. But like, who would have thought that like Epic Records was having Stanley Clarke songs remixed?
Yeah,
right. But I mean, he did have some R&B kind of stuff at the time. But I was looking at the credits, right? Like who did what and stuff. And at some point, I noticed on this album, it's like this guy Pete Wingfield played clavinet on What I Hear. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know what made me want to look him up years and years and years and years ago, because maybe I had heard of him somewhere else. But he had this song called 18 with a Bullet.
What?
And if you go on YouTube or you search whatever,
I know
it's a really good song.
It is a good song. Yeah.
And it's kind of like what the lyrics are, it's like a love song, but he's explained the lyrics like sort of using all of this DJ jargon.
Yeah.
You know, so like 18 with a bullet would mean like, oh, the song's really going up the charts. And, you know, so there's a line that says, oh, it's a sure shot. Like all the stuff that a DJ would say talking about a song, you know, and it's very interesting, but it kind of has a 50s doo-wop kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it, and I don't know enough about it to like, is he the guy singing it or is he just playing the music? But there's a part like, there's like a second voice or he goes to another voice and I swear it sounds like it's Bootsy Collins singing.
Really?
You know, it's like a deeper voice in the song at some point. But yeah, I was just thinking about that the other day because I don't know what made me want to look him up. And maybe it was, you know, maybe I stumbled across this song and I was like, oh, that name sounds familiar, Pete Wingfield. And then I realized, oh, he was on that Pursuit of Accidents album. Or just that he played clavinet and I thought, well, let me do a search on him. And then I found that song. But, you know, if you're out there listening and you want to hear, search for Pete Wingfield, 18 with a bullet.
Yeah, I definitely remember that song.
It sounds nothing like Level 42, but it's a cool song.
No, it's not. It's like a rock track.
Yeah, it's more like, I guess it would be more rock. But it kind of has a doo-wop vibe.
So now that we've kind of gone through the Pursuit of Accidents, I'm going to ask you how you're going to celebrate the 42nd anniversary of the Pursuit of Accidents.
Probably listening to it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what, September?
Yep. We're going to send you a cake of...
please do.
Right, with some incense coming through a light.
No incense. I have
a rainbow cake.
Oh, yeah. Cake with a rainbow on it. That would do it. So the other thing is, you know, I was surprised when I saw that I got their album back in the day and I looked at the credits and like I said, you know, see Wally, Pete, Wingfield.
Mm-hmm.
But for Phil, it's like TR-808 drum machine, which was the hip hop drum machine. And I was like, oh, where's that on there? Like, and I never really learned like, okay, what track was that drum machine used on? Was it just maybe a kick drum or was it some percussion? Like,
yeah, I don't remember.
That might be a good question if we can ever have a chat with Phil.
Right.
And of course we got Wally on there.
Yeah, you know, we haven't touched on Wally. I'm sure if we had any member of the band on to talk about this album, they would say he was, and this is no pun intended, instrumental in a lot of the sounds you're hearing on this album. I'm sure there's keyboard sequences that are very subtle that are just probably everything he programmed. And he's just such a genius and really, you know, he doesn't get the limelight with the band. He's always referred to as the fifth member, but each one of those guys would always say how instrumental he was to the band. So,
yeah, I wonder too how much he would remember about. Oh yeah, that was this keyboard and blah 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 blah. Because I distinctly remember probably around the World Machine album being big in America, that Keyboard magazine had a short thing. Like they used to do like this little. Every month they would be like, they'd call up some keyboard player and like, hey, how did you create this sound? Right. And one of the tracks on World Machine, they were asking, oh, well, how did you do this brass sound? You know, whatever. And they kind of went into like, oh yeah, it was like this keyboard and this keyboard. And then as they keep going in the conversation, he's like, oh, but you know what? I called up so-and-so and actually that was real brass.
So when I'm going to have to correct you on this, I do remember the story and it wasn't off World Machine. It was Heaven in My Hands.
Oh, okay.
That was the trumpet.
Oh, okay.
I remember seeing that story too, and you're right. They went round the horn, and they said it was like 3 or 4 different trumpet patches, and they're like, "Oh no, wait, there's real trumpet on there."
Awesome. Okay, that's cool. I distinctly remember like that was a conversation. I found it funny that no, actually, it wasn't like this keyboard and this, and we layered. It was a real person.
Yeah.
It's like okay. Cool.
And I think it was Lindup, actually. I can't remember if it was Lindup. It was either Lindup and Wally, or it was just Lindup and that. It was a Keyboard magazine story.
I'll have to find that.
this was probably 5-6 years ago. Julian Hall did an interview with Wally, and I got to submit a question, and Julian submitted it to Wally, and Wally answered it. And I asked what was one of his favorite moments being with Level 42. And Wally's reply was being in the engineering studio room when they had the final mix of Something About You completed.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I hope,
right.
yeah. And you're right, all the band members say, there wouldn't really be a Level 42 sound really without Wally. Just his magical sprinkles and touches throughout the whole history of their body of work.
Yeah.
Sort of pollinated the band and the music. So, and I'm not as familiar with a lot of his solo stuff as I should be, to be honest.
I'm not either, Mikey, but what was the song he came out with like 2 years ago?
I do not remember. I remember the early stuff.
No, he did something like 2 years ago, and it had such a great groove. And he did a video for it, like a little.
I don't know. I remember Chief Inspector being a big, and there was a video for that, but that was a long time ago, and that was a big hit. When I was living in New York, it was pretty popular. But he did a bunch of soundtracks. His two solo albums that I have are really good.
Well, he's played with a lot of people. I mean,
yeah, I knew him working with Grace Jones and a lot of Sly and Robbie. A lot of he was playing with them on a lot of stuff. Their bass and drum combo out of Jamaica. And just to call back, that Pete Wingfield 18 with a bullet track, it's on the. If you ever seen the I believe it's the Guy Ritchie movie, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yeah.
It's on that soundtrack, which I didn't know until recently it was on there because I had just found the song online somewhere.
I wonder if Sting has a song on that album since he's in the movie.
Oh, I don't even remember him. I haven't seen that movie in forever. I don't even recall him being in there.
I think he did, just going back to Wally, he did Tom Tom Club.
Oh, yeah.
And he did the Power Station album, which is, he was on to everything. Talking Heads, too. That was the other big one he did.
See, and that's, I did not recall that because for me, I think of, Talking Heads brought in other people. They brought in Bernie Worrell from Parliament Funkadelic. He played with them. He was on a few albums, played live with them for quite a long time. I did not know that Wally played with them.
That, and he played with a lot of the Island Records outfit as well.
Grace Jones and all those people. And then obviously I would imagine the connection with the Talking Heads because two of the Talking Heads were
did the Tom Tom Club.
Tom Tom Club,
Right.
So I didn't know that. That's cool.
So what have we learned today, guys? Pursuit of Accidents. We've learned that the song "The Pursuit of Accidents" is one of the greatest. We learned that we're all kind of like just okay with the Chinese way. What else?
No, it was fun to kind of go, like I said at the beginning, it's not one of the albums that I've listened to very often. So it was really cool to kind of go back and listen to it. And here's some of the stuff, especially Shapeshifter, which I hadn't heard in decades, to be honest. Yeah, it was really fun, kind of rediscovering the album again. Thanks, Winston.
Yeah, don't mention it. And
we'll be doing more of these albums as we go forward. I think we're going to do 40th anniversary of True Colors coming up, right, guys?
Yeah,
at some point.
You're my hero, Bob.
I'm really curious too, just because like I think Mikey or one of you guys mentioned that coming off this album that they were contacted by the two gentlemen from Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yeah,
like hey, I wonder how that happened. Like did they just reach out to the record company like hey, we heard this album and we'd like to work with these guys because that must have been pretty cool.
I think I think it's a box set. The guy from Earth, Wind, and Fire. Is it Verdine? Maybe it's Verdine.
Verdine's the bass player, and
right. But I can't remember who gave a little prologue in it. But he explains how they got introduced to Level 42 in there, and I'm just trying to remember what he said. I don't have it in front of me.
yeah, because it was my understanding that they were Earth, Wind and Fire was touring Europe, heard the album,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was always an interesting thing to me. Another thing I noticed too was if you look in the credits for Pursuit, because to me it was like a lot of like I knew Wally, I didn't know Pete Wingfield, don't know who Pete Jacobson is. He's credited with playing Roland Jupiter 4 on Last Chance, but I had heard the name Jerry Boys as an engineer, Dick Plant, because I remember Dick Plant, like I think he had done like some of the live recordings that showed up on the singles. But then there's the name David Bascom. And I was like, who's that? Like, I know that name. And then I was like, oh, he did a bunch of engineering and stuff for like Tears for Fears.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Peter Gabriel, Human League. So I would imagine maybe that was like, he kind of got his, because he's listed as like an additional engineer. So maybe that's where he kind of got, got his start or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember him from the Tears for Fears Sowing the Seeds of Love album.
Yeah, that's he did song. I think he probably did songs from the Big Chair, but I mean, Tears for Fears. That's one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yeah,
that Sowing the Seeds. Like I could just listen to that. That's one that's an album I don't skip a track.
Yep.
But Paul Crawford also managed them too briefly.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, look, guys, this has been a great conversation about the pursuit of excellence. Wayne, it was a good idea by you. Thank you for putting together. And I, like I said earlier, I look forward to doing more of these kind of album retrospectives. And guys, it was great to talk to you again. And we want to thank everybody who tuned in. For Winston Walker, Mikey Payne, I'm Bob Considine. We are leaving you now, but we'll wait till you return. See you next time, everybody.
All right. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye.